Good morning, woodwinds, or afternoon, or evening, or whenever you decide to watch this video. This is your e-learning video number 5. We are going to look at the second half of the song I Don't Want to Stop. So last week what we did is we went from measure 1 to measure 21. So this week we are going to go from 21 to the end. The goal is to finish this song and have both Another Brick in the Wall and I Don't Want to Stop done by next week. Okay? So make sure that you watch the announcements video. It's marked May 5th, 2020 in here. Watch that video first. Because I go over a couple of things with you about how things are going to be working going forward. Okay? All right, so let's get right into it. Sorry, wrong side. All right, so flutes. Where we left off last week was at measure 21. Now, as you're looking at the Flute One and the Flute Two parts at measure 21, and really kind of throughout the song, measure 21 to measure 33 are actually in unison, but one is up the octave and one is down the octave. Okay, so my suggestion to you, and what we're going to do at this moment, is we're actually going to start with the Flute Two part. And the reason we're going to start with the Flute 2 part is because some of those upper octave notes in the first part, the ledger lines can get a little tough to tell where you're supposed to be going. And if you look at the Flute 2 part, it will help you figure out those notes. Okay? All right, so let's take a look. All right, so here we are at measure 21. All right, so starting at measure 21, y'all are taking over this melody. Okay, you've heard it being played by the brass earlier, and now you're taking over. And again, this is the Flute 2 part, but the Flute 1 part is the exact same thing up an octave. Okay, so if we start at measure 21, and I apologize, I'm gonna put on my metronome so that we can work through this together. So again, this song is marked at 150, 148. So I'm going to take it a little bit faster because this is not as hard rhythmically as some of the other things that we have done. So I'm going to take this at 120. Okay? All right. So starting here, and I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble reading it backwards. All right. So starting at measure 21. Okay? 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. And that's 29. Okay? So again, that is just straight eighth notes. The only thing in there that could throw you are these couple of ties here and here. So to slow that measure down just a little bit, just in case, this would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it becomes 1 and 2 and 4 and. Okay? All right, so I'm going to put on the metronome again. Again, this is 120. I'm going to start back at measure 21 one more time and count through it, but this time I will keep going. Okay? Measure 21. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, measure 2, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4, and 2, and 3, and. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 2, and 3. Okay? All right, so here's the good news. As y'all see, the rhythmic things, the kind of harder rhythmic things are all at the beginning. But let's take just a second. Let's peek at this little lick right here, okay? So this is 1, and the note's on 2, next note is on and, 3 is the rest, and 4 and. So it's just 1, 2 and 4 and. Okay, the rest make it look a lot more difficult, but it's actually not. So slow it down and it's 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, and that's all that is. Okay, all right, so as you look at the Flute One part, you will see that in the Flute One part, it is more or less the same thing. Okay, once you get down to measure 33, a lot of y'all's notes are actually identical. Okay, before then, pretty much everything else is the same thing. It's just up the octave. Okay, so Flute One, I'm not going to spend the same amount of time on this one, because what you can do is more or less look at this Flute Two part, learn the rhythm, learn the, excuse me, I was yawning, probably like you are right now. So I can learn all of my notes this way, and then I can start looking into that upper octave. Now, if you're unsure about notes in the upper octave, on Google Classroom, there is a flute, clarinet, and a saxophone fingering chart for notes in the upper octaves. So you can take a peek at that and make sure that you're trying to get all those. Okay? All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start at measure 21 in the Flute 2 part and play it with the recording. It might be actually closer to about measure 20, okay? But I'm going to start about right there, okay? That is not where I wanted it to start at all. You suck, computer. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back and do the same thing for the Flute One part, just so you can see it in your parts. But the main thing I'd put in there is, most of you, as you're listening to it, you realize how much of your part is with the trumpet part. Okay. 21. Okay, and that's all the way through that second half of that song. So here's what I would suggest, flutes. What I'd like for you to try to do is, I'd really like for everyone in this song to try to play the Flute One part. Okay, you can see that it's melody all across the board, and we want to make sure that that's coming forward. So my suggestion is to work your way up to some of those higher notes. I believe the highest note in there is a G flat, F sharp. So I'm spouting that off. That might not be true, but work your way up to those higher notes. Work your way up as a scale first and whole notes, whatever you need to do. And that way we want to definitely hear you. Okay? All right, thanks, flutes. Make sure that you're turning this stuff in, and keep checking as we keep posting things for you to do. All right? All right, clarinets. What we're doing is we are starting at measure 21, and I don't want to stop, and working our way towards the end. Okay? So here I got good news and bad news. The good news is at measure 21, you are all in unison. Rhythmically, note-wise, everything like that. At 31, we get some whole notes, or sorry, 33, we get some whole notes, and y'all split a little bit. Now, the bad news, especially for second clarinets, is you're in unison. So second clarinets, you are now playing maybe some higher notes and things that you might not be quite as used to playing. Okay? So what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to start with the clarinet 2 part. And count with you through some of this. So what I'm going to do, again, this song is marked at 148. What I'd like to do is go at 110, okay, as we count through at measure 21. So if I measure 21, and I'm going to go from 21 to 29 counting. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. And that's 29. Okay? And I'll show you here, the clarinet 1 part is identical. Okay, 21, the clarinet parts are identical. And it's the melody. You have it with the trumpets, you have it with the flutes. It is the melody. So we're going to need all of you playing that part. Okay? All right, so let's just make sure of 2 measures which are actually the same. This one and this one. So just to make sure you realize this is 1 and 2 and tied to 3 and 4 and. So without the ties, it's just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But when I tie them together here, I get 1 and 2 and 4 and. Same in this measure. 1 and 2 and 4 and. Okay? All right, so after that, you have this 2 measure lick, which we're going to come back to in just a second, and then we have whole notes. Okay? And it's moving chromatically. So you're going from D, C sharp to C natural. So that means that this C sharp needs to be in your top hand on clarinet, your left hand, so that you can play the C natural in your right hand. Okay? You don't want to be trying with your bottom finger to try to go from, C sharp here to C natural and doing all this kind of stuff. So you use the C sharp here so that you can play C natural down here. Okay? All right, so let's take a quick look at this little lick right here. All right? So if I'm counting everything in the measures, I've got this note is on beat 1. The rest is on the and of beat 1. 8th note on 2. 8th note on the and of 2. 8th rest on 3. 8th note on the and of 3. 8th note on 4. And 8th note on the and of 4. So the whole measure, if I count everything, is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? So then I take out these rests. So I'm taking out the and of 1 and I'm taking out beat 3. All right, and I get 1, 2, and 4 and. All right, a little faster, and I get 1, 2, and 4 and. 1, 2, and 4 and. Okay, so when I put it together, I get 1, 2, and 4 and 2 and 3 and. All right, this one's really the little bit more difficult one, and it's only difficult because it looks difficult. It's actually really not that bad. It looks worse than it is. Okay? All right, so here's what I'd like to do. Second clarinets and first clarinets, you can take a look as well because you're looking for this this section being the same, and your rhythms are all the same here. First clarinets, you're just playing in a different octave. Okay? We're here, it's about 17. One, two, one. Okay, and that gets us through that second half of the song. Okay, so again, I would suggest, clarinet twos, take a look at the clarinet one part as well. You can see that from 21 all the way up to 33, y'all are identical. So use this as another chance to go through it. Okay, and in first clarinet, you see that your notes are actually just up the octave. If you're not sure of any of these upper notes, check the fingering chart that I put on Google Classroom. It is not your typical fingering chart. It's a fingering chart that goes through this upper register and can help you out finding some of these upper notes. Okay, now clarinet one, if you just skipped all the way to clarinet one and skipped the clarinet two part, I'm not going over all of your rhythms with you or anything like that. I'm literally want to count through it one time and then do it with the recording because the rhythms are all identical to the other clarinet part. Okay, so clarinet ones, I'm going to put this at 120 on the metronome. Okay, remember it's written at 148. So what I want to do is you follow along starting at measure 21, and if you're clarinet 2, count along with us as well. This is just another way for you to learn notes. Or if you're someone, by the way, if you don't know if you're a 1 or a 2, learn 1 and learn some of the parts, because a lot of these things get doubled. Okay, so meaning you're playing a lot of the same notes. Okay? All right, so here's measure 21. 1, 3, 21, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. 29, 30. 1, 2, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 and 2 and 3. Okay? And that's actually the whole second half of this song. Hopefully most of y'all are seeing now why I wanted to start with another brick in the wall, because it's much more difficult than this one. This one's going to be a chance for y'all to just everybody. Okay? All right, so let's go. I'm going to start right around about 17 or so, and we'll work our way into this new part. Okay? Here's 17. Okay, and that actually gets you through this entire song. So be working on that. This part here will be a pass off next week. So by the end of next week, by the second week of May, which was my goal, you should be able to play through as much as you can, notes and rhythms, another brick in the wall, and I don't want to stop. Okay, make sure you're checking in when you can on the Google Meet. And that way we can go over anything you want to go over and also just check in with you. Okay? Thanks, clarinets. All right, Altos, we are in I Don't Want to Stop, and we are looking from measure 21 to the end, okay? Now, like the other woodwinds, y'all are more or less playing melody for this entire section of the song, okay? As you're looking at your part, measure 21 all the way to measure 33, you all are in unison. Okay, rhythmically and note-wise. The whole saxophone section is playing the same notes. And actually, as you get into 33, a lot of those whole notes are also the same. Now, it splits a little bit in one place, but more or less this entire second half of this song is in unison. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the saxophone part. The only difference from measure 21 to the end between the saxophone 1 part and the saxophone 2 part is actually the last measure. Okay, so I'm actually just start right there real quick. So last measure, 1 and 2 and 3. And then in the saxophone 2 part, it's the same thing, just down the octave. Okay, literally every other note from 21 to the end is identical, which if you're a composer or if you're a musician reading that, the first thing I would think is, that means it's probably important because they put everybody on the same part, and it is because it's all the melody. Okay? All right, so here's what I'm going to do, saxophones. I'm going to put the metronome on 115. 115. This piece is marked at 148, but I'm going to put it on 115, and I'm going to start just by going from 21 to 29. Okay, 21 to 29 counting. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. Okay, and that's 21 to 29. The only thing that could throw you off just a little bit are these little ties in 22 and the same exact thing that happens in 26. So this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the and of 2 is tied to 3, so you get 1 and 2 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 4 and. Okay? Everything else is pretty much just straight eighth notes. All right? So let's take a look now at this little spot right here. This is measure 29. All right? So at measure 29, you are playing on beat 1. The and of 1 is a rest. 2 is a note. And of 2 is a note. 3 is a rest. And of 3 is a note. 4 is a note. And the and of 4 is a note. All right? And they're all eighths. So we're looking at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? All beats of eighths. So when I take out the and of 1 and I take out beat 3, I get 1, 2, and 4 and. Okay? So if I'm thinking eighth notes, 1, 2, and 4 and is that rhythm. And then when I put it in the big beats, 1, 2, and 4 and. 1, 2, and 4 and is that rhythm. And then we put in this one more measure. This next measure is the same. Okay, you see the eighth. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm reading it backwards. This measure is just a little bit different. All right, so this one starts with a rest on beat 1. Then the and of 1 is a note. 2 is a note. And of 2 is a note. 3 is the rest. And of 3 is a note. 4 is a note. And the and of 4 is a note. Okay? So the difference is this first part. Okay? So again, this one is 1, 2, and 4 and. This one is and 2 and 4 and. All right, listen to this one again. And 2 and 4 and. So when I put these two measures together, I get 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 4 and. Okay? Now, the very next measure is the same as 29. 1, 2 and 4 and. And then the next measure has the same rest at the beginning, but then it's just straight eighth notes. So it's and 2 and 3 and. All right? So these four measures are ready, listen, 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 4 and 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 3 and. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here at 29 with the metronome and go from 29 to the end. Again, this is metronome marking 115. Okay? So here's measure 29. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 4 and 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 3 and. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 and 2 and 3. Okay? All right, so again, if you look at it part-wise and you go, well, I'm playing the second part, literally every note is the same until the last measure. Okay? So let's do this. What I'd like to do is we're going to go with the recording. It's going to pick up right around measure 16 or 17. And then we're going to go from 21 to the end with the recording. Okay? All right, so here's 19. Okay, and saxophones, and I'm not trying to leave the seconds out of this little section, but seconds, as you're looking at that music, you realize how it's almost identical, and I don't want to waste video time or your time just putting that with the recording as well, because you can pretty much go off that first part and then just play the one measure different at the end. Okay, make sure you're keeping up with pass-offs, videos, and make sure that you also are checking the video that I put at the very beginning, a separate video where I did some announcements and talking about this summer. Okay, thanks. All right, tenors, we are looking at I Don't Want to Stop, and we are going to be looking at, oh, I'm so sorry. We're going to be looking at measure 21 to the end. All right. So like I told y'all last week, you've got lots of notes in this one. This is a much more fun song to play than a lot of the tenor sax songs that you end up with. Now, it is very repetitive, but at least you're moving and doing some different things. Okay. So as you look at measure 21, you can see that you are repeating this same little figure that you've had since measure 5. Okay, because that's more or less the melody. All right, so I'm going to bypass that just for a moment. We'll come back to it. And let's go all the way down to 33. And again, you see the same little motive. Okay, it is the thing driving this whole song. All right. So good news is for you, even though it's a lot of black on the page, a lot of notes, it's actually a lot, and it should be fairly easy to memorize. Once you play this measure about 30 times, you should kind of have it down. But let's take a look at measure 29. Okay, this is the one little lick in this song that is different. Okay, so at measure 29, breaking it down by beats, because we got all eighth notes and eighth rests. Okay, everything in here is a quality of an eighth. Okay, so we're on 1, and of 1, 2, and of 2, 3, and of 3, 4, and of 4, 1, and of 1, 2, and of 2, 3, and of 3, 4, and of 4. Okay, so let's just for a moment, let's just focus on measure 29. Okay, all right, so at measure 29, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so these eighth rests are falling on the and of 1 and on beat 3. So if I'm clicking eighth notes, 1, 2, and oh, I'm so sorry, I did that wrong. 1, 2, and 4, and is what it is. Super, super slow. Okay, so again, we're on beat 1 playing on beat 2, rest on beat 3, and then playing on beat 4. So if I do it in the big beats, 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the very next measure. So the very next measure is just a tiny bit different. Instead of it starting on a note, it's starting on a rest. All right, so this is beat 1, and 2, and rest on 3, and 4, and. So this one is in eighth notes, and 2, and 4, and 2, and 4, and 2, and 4, and. So if I put these two together, 1, 2, and 4, and 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and 2, and 4, and. Okay, so now I'm going to do them with the metronome. I've got this metronome clicking at 115. The piece is marked at 148. So this is 115, a chance for you to do it a little bit slower. Okay, so here is measure 29. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 4, and 2, and 4, and. Again. 1, 2, and 4, and 2, and 4, and. Okay, so then when I open it up, you can see that these two measures are identical. 1, 2, and 4, and. This measure has the same rest that this one does, but then it's just straight eighth notes. And 2, and 3, and 2, and 3, and. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do, tenors, is I'm going to put the metronome on 115. And I'm going to go back to measure 21 and count from 21 to the end. Okay? There are no other rhythmic surprises in there. Everything else is similar to things you've done before. Okay? So let's start 21. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 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 1 and 1 and 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 4 and 1, 2 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 1. Okay, and then there were, sorry, I lost my spot. So I'll start right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay? Now, I will tell you, tenors, I think this lick right here, these two measures at the end, I think we're probably going to take that up the octave. I don't think that's going to really be heard on the field like it should be. So if you're having trouble with that low C, it's not the end of the world. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go back. We're going to pick it up. It's going to be right around measure 13 as we're trying to get into it. But then I'll help you through with the recording from 21 to the end. Okay, 17. All right, so I realize your part, that's why I was trying to double yours just a little bit, is your part is a little bit harder to hear in the context of the recording because you have more of what the low brass has in some moments. So just make sure that you are working through those low notes. If nothing else, tenors, those low E's and D's, we should be experts at those by the end of this marching season, okay? Make sure that you're watching the videos. Check the one that I put within this post that says all band or full band. And just make sure that you're keeping up with your mind in classroom. All right? Thanks.